All right, so we're going to go ahead and get started. I'm just going to give myself a real pause, and then I'm going to go ahead and get right into the script, and then I'll let you know when, I'll just introduce you formally, and then we'll get right on into it. Cool. All right. Good evening, brothers. Good evening. Welcome to Q's on the Move. My name is Brother Omari Fennell, 1 Spring 15, second vice bossless for Psi Iota chapter of Omega Psi Phi Fraternity Incorporated, located in Dover, Delaware. Psi Iota is known as the Mother Pearl of Delaware, chartered in November of 1946. Since then, the Brothers of Psi Iota have remained steadfast on our cardinal principles of manhood, scholarship, perseverance, and uplift, servicing the community through social action projects across the Dover and surrounding cities. Today, I have the honor and privilege of facilitating tonight's episode of Q's on the Move. Today's podcast will highlight Brother Damond Warren, founder of a local community organization called P.E.A.C.E. Please educate all children equally. We will get into his love for education. We'll talk about major issues in education, along with discussing his focus on diversity, equity, and inclusion in schools. He has served the Philadelphia tri-state area as a teacher, a dean of students, head football coach, assistant principal, and principal. And he is also a loving father and husband. So our goal for this evening is to inform, connect, engage, and to share meaningful information with a new generation of listeners about important subjects in the community. And we hope to encourage and inspire you in your neighborhood and community. Today, as I mentioned, we have our very own brothers within Psi Iota, who is a very well-versed and experienced professional in the areas of diversity, equity, and inclusion, who is here to help us all understand its importance and how we can better equip ourselves and our families on this matter. We will touch on a few issues within this topic to understand and hopefully provide insight into the current issues that are being faced today. But before we get started, I must say that the comments and views expressed by individuals are their own. They do not necessarily reflect the views of Omega Psi Phi Fraternity Incorporated or its entities that its guests may be affiliated with. So with that, Brother Warren, I welcome you, founder of P.E.A.C.E.
Brother, all those great things. It's like, who's he talking about me? Oh, okay.
Got to give you your flowers, man. You know what I
mean? Appreciate you, Ken.
Absolutely, absolutely. So listen, I appreciate you jumping on this podcast. I know we have a lot of meaningful and a lot of great information to share with the audience. So we're really just going to get right into the conversation. And what I want to do is kind of lead with this study that I found, a study by an organization called the Panorama Education. Okay. And they did a study where they analyzed about 12,000 students, and they measured how diverse, integrated, and fair school is for students from different races, ethnicities, or cultures. And here's a few statistics that I found from the study, just two. So overall, 4 out of 5 students said that adults at school are fair in how they treat people from different races, ethnicities, or cultures. All right.
They aren't, or they are?
They are. And then the second point, one of their findings is that 3 out of 4 students said that it was quite or extremely common for students at their school to have close friends from different racial, ethnic, or cultural backgrounds. So I want to just dig into, your thoughts and from your experience as an educator in this area of focus today. Do you agree with the statistics? Do they hold true in your opinion?
I would have to look at the data in terms of the age group of the students that were surveyed, right? Because I can say myself personally, up till about grade 8, I mean, I was a student myself that loved all kinds of people, didn't know anything about like the world at large and so on and so forth. But then as you begin to grow and begin to go through various experiences throughout the world, your view may stay the same or it may change depending on your demographic, depending on where you live, depending on your experience and your exposure and so on and so forth, and mainly what goes on in the home also. So I would need to see more data to see exactly the demographics of that particular study.
Okay, no, that's fair, definitely, and I agree with you. It really just has to do with a lot of different variables. Where you do come up from. The type of surroundings you are around. When growing up, and so I know in my personal life, I know I grew up around a diverse type of, atmosphere. And so, for that experience for me, I had a great experience in high school myself.
Yeah.
So, I know it just depends on where you are. It could be location, it could be, a lot of variable factors.
Yeah.
And, speaking about, kind of how you grew up, I kind of want to get into about who is Damond Warren.
Yeah.
Where are you from? Who
Absolutely.
me about you?
Absolutely.
What encouraged you to also get into education after you give us a little bit of that?
Wow. So let me speak. I don't know how much time we have, but I'm gonna try to give you the short version.
Give
So
it to
going
us.
back to what I said, when I was a kid growing up to about 8 years old, I just loved kids. I loved children. I grew up in a pretty segregated part of Philadelphia, majority Black area. And at about 8 years old was my first time experiencing racism. I didn't even know what it was, but I know that I went to go visit another family member in another part of Philadelphia, which had been I guess for lack of better terms at that time, gentrified by some Black folk that had some money. And I was asked to go buy a loaf of bread from the local store. As I go buy this loaf of bread, two older Caucasian gentlemen essentially jumped me, took my bread and called me the N-word. And I didn't understand what was going on at 8 years old. That was my first time experiencing that. When I got back home, my auntie told me exactly what was happening. They tried to go find the guys and everything, and they got into something else. But then after that, I was always kind of guarded around folks that didn't look like me because of that trauma. One thing that I would say that kind of blessed me throughout my trek throughout life was playing football, because when I played football in high school, even though I was in that same neighborhood, they had gone through a lot of racial strife and so on and so forth. Once we got on that football field, and I say this all the time, we're working towards that football, man, or any kind of sport, but mainly football. Your common goal is trying to beat the other team. So if your team is maroon and gray, or that other team is blue and white, you're fighting against that particular entity and whatnot. So
Right.
the majority of my friends that I have that don't look like us come from football. I mean, that's just point blank period. I've gained some others throughout education and in my career, so on and so forth. But my main close friends that didn't look like me came from playing football, because we had that common thing in that thing in common, man. So that was like kind of like the short, of like my experience growing up in situations where I faced racism, but I knew that all people that didn't look like me were bad, because there were some guys on my team that were pretty good and pretty cool. We would hang out and so on and so forth. So, but it's that thing that brought us together. So that culture was definitely something else, man, something special.
That's awesome. I mean, I know, your story is very similar. I mean, I have a similar story as well, because I mean, I have a sports background. I played football, played basketball pretty much throughout the, entirety of my high school and middle school. So, it was during those, I mean, even earlier than that, and it was just during those, those times in your life where you're exposed to, other races, other cultures, and, through my time, even throughout that point in time, you were able to kind of, gain friends and, just kind of go through life. And I think that opened it up for me, to just be open to diversity and just everything with respect to that realm. Um,
Absolutely.
yeah. So, but tell me, what encouraged you to get into the education field? What was it that got you,
So,
inspired you?
so yeah, so I had to go back again to football, because playing high school football and having a pretty good team and going to the championship game, and we lost the championship. It was very traumatic to me, because we were supposed to win that game. We didn't win the game, but I said, you know what? One day I'm gonna come back to the city. I'm gonna be the head football coach in my high school, and we're gonna win the championship. So I went into a different career. At first hotel restaurant management. Did that for about 4 or 5 years. And I was a manager in hotels in Atlantic City, Atlanta, Georgia, and also Cherry Hill, New Jersey. Then
Okay.
after a while, I read a book called Countering the Conspiracy to Destroy Black Boys by Dr. Jawanza Kunjufu. And when I read that book, and it talked about the fourth grade failure syndrome and how the theory was they were building jails based on African-American boys not being able to read in the fourth grade. So my mission and my passion at the time was to make sure that I can get as many young men as possible to be able to read in the fourth grade, be on grade level. Started out as an elementary school teacher, but then also wanted to get back into coaching football too. So that was my game plan. So I started elementary school, then I moved into high school, began assistant coaching and so on and so forth. Moved throughout, various teaching opportunities. They were also kind of parallel with coaching opportunities, and became a head football coach at 4 different high schools.
Wow.
But then at the same time, it wasn't just about, as I began to grow, it wasn't just about the X's and the O's. I began to see these young men and I created something called reverse COINTELPRO. So if you look at COINTELPRO, which is basically the FBI's plan to infiltrate organizations like the KKK, but also the Black Panther Party, the Nation of Islam, SNCC and everything else, Martin Luther King, and now till this day, Black Lives Matter, right? I'm still doing those things, but I use what I call reverse COINTELPRO. I said, you know what? I want to go into the school system that I know, in my humble opinion, was not providing our young people what they needed, and infiltrate that to give them all the extra things that they need in terms of the race and culture and heritage and so on and so forth, because we know, and I'm talking like 30 years ago.
Yeah.
In certain places around the country had done better than others, but even to this day, I won't bring up politics, but we got certain parts of the country that's still fighting against that now.
Sure.
I'm talking about 30 years ago when I began teaching, it wasn't there. We've gotten better in certain parts, but now it's going to take us backwards.
Right.
So for me, my mission and passion has always been to try to fill those gaps, because, kids want to be what they see. They don't know about, hey, you go Dr. Carter G. Woodson. I can tell you right now, and I love that picture right there of Dr. Carter G. Woodson. So I can take a picture of George Washington and show it to a group of adults, and everybody on site will know who that is.
Right.
I'll take the same group of adults, Black and white, and show a picture like that of Dr. Carter G. Woodson, or even the older version, and they don't know who it is. How can you not know who that is as an African-American person, as a person from the African diaspora, when he is the father of our history?
Yes.
But you know George Washington. So I teach the babies early on who that man is specifically, because actually his birthday is December the 19th, mine December the 18th. So we're very connected anyway. So we're like, I guess. I didn't know that until later in life, so I can go on and on about that topic, brother, but I'll yield my time. Please.
No, that's great though, because I mean, I can just feel the passion that you have behind what you do, and just your feeling and your thoughts behind it. And from what I see, I mean, just every position that you've been in, right? Even as a teacher, a coach, you've been in a principal, you've been in positions where you have really direct, ability to impact the lives of children, of kids. And so, I mean, and that's huge, especially in this day and age, with all the things that are going on, we need, individuals, we need brothers, people that, that look like us too, that need to get out there and be influencers to these young people. And so, I just applaud you for that, because listen, I've been in the grade school, just going to grade school, different grade schools, and just gone in for just a few minutes, right? Just not a whole day, but just going in, and we do our, literacy programs and go and read to the children. But I mean, I give it to the teachers. I give it to all folks that are within the school administrations, because it takes a village, honestly, to help get these children through and give them the education that they need, man.
Absolutely.
So I want to get into, let's transition, want to get into P.E.A.C.E.
Yes.
So tell me about P.E.A.C.E. Please educate all children equally. What is it? What is the inspiration behind P.E.A.C.E.?
So, I'm a huge hip hop fan. And so years ago, hip hop group called Brand Nubian, and one of their songs, they said, please educate Allah's children with equality. Right? So I said, that's dope. I don't want to take theirs. So I just take and switch it up a little bit. Please educate all children equally. It could easily say with equity. We'll get into that in a second too. Okay. But then I said, let me create this. I've been wanting to do it for years, but when the pandemic hit, and there were a lot of people were shut down, we're locked down, couldn't go to school, everybody was virtual, all different kinds of things. I said, I'm going to create a platform that I can, number one, connect with children through content, like I just said, talking about, Black History is more than a month, talking about, 4th of July and different things that, from a different perspective that they might not get in school. And I've put most of those things on a platform such as this, tape them, put them on YouTube. You can go to my YouTube page, and please educate all children equally, my YouTube page, and see a lot of those videos there. And people, I showed them on Zoom, showed them on YouTube, and still doing that work to this day. But also providing workshops and professional development for teachers. Shout out to different charter schools in the Philadelphia area and also the Philadelphia School District for allowing me to come in and meet with groups of teachers to also give them different workshops on things of that nature that they need to do to be better in front of our students. And the one thing that I will say, I don't want just teachers, I want educators, right? Because an educator is also a teacher. Sometimes the teacher is the person that comes to work, collects a check, goes home. We need everyone to be educator. Not an educator. I had a woman, it was so therapeutic. I'm gonna say the school, she was the kitchen worker. And she began crying because she hadn't gone to college, didn't have these degrees, but she was in my session. I paused the session. I said, listen, sister, you are probably one of the most important educators in the building because they come to you, they're hungry, they need food, you're talking to them, you're giving them life lessons, you're counseling them, providing their social services. So after I broke it down to her, she began to cheer up and said, that's why I'm an educator. Wow. See, we're all educators in our own right. You may not have all these licenses to be teachers, and I got a few. I mean, I got a few licenses to say I'm a teacher and all those kinds of things. But more than that, you know, my passion for this work comes from things that my grandmother instilled into me when I was a baby, because I was raised by my grandmother. So that's where it started. Then the books that I picked up, but then being around the babies, and folks say all the time, say, listen, man, when you going to retire? I said, you know what? I watch some people that retire and then they die, right? You know, I'm not that old, number one. But I think I'll work around kids some kind of way as long as I possibly can, because they keep me young. I learn from them. You know, it's the saying that I have: old school, new school, school's always open. I learned from my goddaughter the other day. She knows how to make TikToks and stuff. She's 5 years old. She's highly intelligent. Teaching me how to work a TikTok on the phone. I see them. I watch the videos, but this is how you do it. You know, so I learned from the babies, man. I love the babies.
Right. Yeah, I mean, you can never be too old to learn, and I think, you know, and you know, you can't be too closed off, especially as adults like we are, to receive some knowledge, to receive uplift from our younger folks, our younger generation. Absolutely. So we definitely have to, you know, be open to that and just being open to learning overall. But I just love that story, you know, that you just talked about there. I mean, and again, I mean, just the passion just exudes through you, you know, in terms of your enthusiasm.
Yes.
Making things better for, you know, for the, not just children, but for the school, the whole administrators and everyone. So I think
absolutely. You know, adults, you know, whether it be working in the schools, community groups, so on and so forth, you know, youth organizations, whoever. I mean, they can go to my website, check it out. We get into that later on. My website, check out the resources that are there, connect with me, and I talk to anybody that wants to learn, you know, and also that I can learn from as well. I don't know everything.
Right.
It's a symbiotic relationship all the time.
It has to be. It has to be. Now, I want to move to this one. This is something that I saw you provided, and I actually got one of the t-shirts, and you talk about it. You say EQ over IQ equals a better you. Yes. Explain what that means to our audience and why this formula is key to our growth, or our own growth mindset.
Absolutely, because you know, in your intellectual quotient basically is saying how well you do mathematics and linguistics and so on and so forth and whatnot is very important. A lot of people put a lot of weight on your IQ. Actually, and that's what it stands for, intellectual quotient. Dr. Howard Gardner, many, many years ago, came up with the theory of the multiple intelligences. He said it was 7, and then evolved into 9. So that shows that people can learn through linguistics, learn through mathematics, learn through the art, learn through music, learn through movement, learn through people skills, right? Intra and inter relationships and so on and so forth. So I said, you know what? I need to come up with something catchy that also speaks to you, how you deal with your emotions. Yeah. Because at the end of the day, I don't care how smart you are. If you can't control yourself and learn how to interact with other people, it doesn't really matter. Yeah. So that's your emotional quotient. How you regulate yourself, how you connect with other people. And that to me is more important than any intellectual quotient, because at the end of the day, you can be as smart as you want to be, but if you can't relate to people, it doesn't really matter. So for me, your EQ is more important than your IQ. Me personally, or equally, right? But definitely it's either as important or in some cases more important. Everything's like a roller coaster, you know, but for me, you know, there's been a lot of people that have been successful because they have a high emotional quotient. They might not even been as smart intellectually, but because they relate to people and how to relate themselves, it carries them through. And, you know, it's like having soft skills in a job. You need those kinds of things. So that's where it comes from. And I've taken several emotional intelligence tests, and I tend to score pretty high. Some people say because I'm emotionless. I said no, because I just I try not to let things, but I'm not an android. Some things will bother me, but I try to like regulate them and get it out of my system and move on to the next thing sooner rather than later. So yeah, that's where it comes from.
No, I think that's awesome. And I think you're exactly right. I mean, the emotional piece of it is just so important, you know, being able to reach and be, you know, I guess to make people feel like you are a human, right? And make you feel like you're understandable, you understand someone else, and you're just not off into your own, emotional state, that you may be in, but you're open enough to be able to receive someone else's, and be able to communicate that.
And let me say this: we have too many brothers that look like us incarcerated right now, right? Because of their lack of emotional control.
Mm-hmm.
Lack of emotional control. I mean, because they don't know how to regulate themselves and deal with other people. So they do things that they commit a crime, especially when it's harming somebody. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like if they had that better, someone in the home or in the community, pouring into them, providing them how to deal with their own emotions and how to deal with other people, they would not be in those situations. Right. Relationships and marriages and all those different kinds of things. And people just, can't control themselves or can't deal with other people. And it's not just, about us as men, women, how people identify, all of us. Yeah. We need some support, and definitely people that look like us. And I'm not a therapist per se, although I've done some therapy type work before in the past, but definitely people need to seek help in that realm as well, therapy. Sure. We in the Black community, sometimes we tend not to want to do that, but it's very, very important. I just kind of deal with the emotion part. I don't deal with the mental health part of it, but the emotion part, I deal with that.
Yeah, no, I mean, you're exactly spot on. I mean, we definitely have to, really look at ourselves, individually, and really, if we need help, let's get the help that we need to get,
Absolutely.
and stop, making, excuses for why we can't, get the help that we need to get. So I definitely appreciate that aspect. I'm going to transition. So tell me a little bit about, what are some current hot topics involving, DEI in education? Like, are school districts doing enough? Do you feel, how do you feel we can overcome them in the next years to come?
So let me say this. We've always been diverse, right? Everybody, we have diversity, right? But are we providing equity? And equity means, if I need something and you need something, you're providing me the tools and the support to get what I need. It might be different than what you need.
Right.
That's the equity part. We need to make sure we're giving people what they need to be successful. I may not need a ladder to put something on the ceiling. You may need a ladder to put something on the ceiling, but we're both trying to put something on the ceiling though. So I need one kind of support, you need a different kind of support. That's the equity piece.
Right.
The inclusion part is the part that we struggle with. And I say that because we'll be diverse. We might be getting better towards providing somebody with equity, but then because somebody looks a little bit different or sounds a little bit different or believes in different things, we tend not to want to include them, right? And that's the part. Organizations say, oh yeah, we have this new person coming in, diversity, equity, inclusion, and then we got B, belonging, right? So it's DEIB actually. Okay. And a lot of times, they tend not to want to include everybody. I mean, a person can have a different gender, different beliefs, and all different kinds of things. We need to embrace everyone. It may not be necessarily what we believe in for ourselves, but you can't shun somebody else for what they believe in. I say it like this all the time, even in religion. And I'll say this: a person, you have all these different kinds of religions and different sects, SECTS, within religions, and that person will say, well, I believe in this. I'm going to go stand on my head over there, and that's going to get me closer to the Most High. Person will say, well, I'm going to stand on one foot. Person, I'm going to lay on the couch, and that's going to get me closer to God. So as long as you're not hurting someone else, I believe this. As long as you're not hurting someone else and you're getting closer to God, the Most High, whatever, fine, I include you. I mean, I should be able to rock with anybody. I don't care what you believe in, your gender, your sex, your race, your everything. Right. The sad part about it is our country and the world at large, but our country specifically wasn't founded on that. Right. And so we have a lot of work to do. It's that inclusion part. Some people, still, I heard recently about one of the politicians who's running for an election in a couple of years who wants to bring back public executions and stuff like that. I can't understand that part, but I understand that part, but that's not part of our topic right now. But that mindset is going back to that separatist mindset when we're trying to move in the direction of being inclusive. Yeah. To embrace inclusion. Like I said, it's like the old saying, what I eat don't make you do whatever, and vice versa. However, I can respect you. As long as you're not hurting me or hurting other people, I can respect your difference. Okay, that might not be for me, but I embrace you as my brother or my sister or whatever. Yeah. And that's the part that I think we still struggle with. So going back to your question about the schools are pretty much diverse. schools have special education programs and departments and so on and so forth, and they do, you know, different sort of learning styles for different students and so on and so forth. So they provide the equity.
Yeah.
Sometimes all of those people in front of your children, though, and I'm talking to the parents right now.
Yeah.
Sometimes all those people in front of your children might not have that inclusion mindset. And you have to really, really, you know, get to know your teachers and know your educators and know the people in the school to see. I mean, be involved, be active, ask the right questions.
Right.
And even school leaders out there, survey your teachers. I do something every single Wednesday in the place where I still currently work, which is called Wellness Wednesday. And it's to give them a voice, you know, to try to unpack things and make sure they're doing well. Because I also preach psychological safety, right? A lot of times it's because they don't feel psychologically safe to talk about certain things because they feel as though me as a boss, I'm going to judge them. Sure. I don't care if you like, you know, to go bird watching or you stamp collecting. I want to learn those kinds of things.
Right.
I learned so much in this new state of people watching birds, and a brother looks like me, but it's like a farmer. I'm like, you a farmer? I didn't know that. I'm learning about farming and stuff from a guy look just like me. Because you live in the southern part of this state, right? Yep. You know, but because I have this Wellness Wednesday, you know, they know that they can unpack things with me, and I make them feel more psychologically safe. And if they're psychologically safe, they're psychologically well, they're psychologically available, you get a better product in terms of what they do, which is for me being a teacher. So the inclusion part, and then when you got that inclusion, then everyone belongs.
Right.
It's DEIB, diversity, equity, inclusion, and also belonging. Wow. And that's the part that a lot of schools are struggling in. That's the part that the world is struggling in. Some agencies have put these positions in place. I have an executive director of diversity, equity, and inclusion and whatnot. Yeah. Well, let's look at the data and see what you're actually doing to make sure that inclusion piece is there. Right. You're going to hire all these people to say, oh, yeah, we're diverse, but are they really included? And is everyone on the boat, everyone on the car, everyone on the bus actually embracing the inclusion piece? Right. That's right there, brother, that we are so far away from right now. Right. But the struggle continues.
Yeah, I mean, I hear you definitely. I mean, it's one thing to I would just say kind of check the box, you know, right, which many, you know, school districts do, schools do, and you know, every people do it. But you know, I think the other thing is just, you know, well, you know, what is behind that? What types of things, like you just mentioned, what are you doing to, you know, to ensure that the inclusion portion is being implemented the way that it should be? And I think that's a major area that I think schools and you know, administrators need to really look at and focus on, like you said. And in the belonging piece, like you said, I mean, that's new with me just hearing that from you. But it holds true. I mean, you got to feel like anywhere you go, you know, that you have a feeling of belonging anywhere you go. And you at least feel, you know, you have that. And like you said, all the other parts roll into it, then you're going to get a better product out of those people, out of those individuals. So I agree totally with you on that. So you talked about the Wellness Wednesdays. So give me a little bit about like the P.E.A.C.E programs. Can you highlight maybe 2 or 3 special programs and discuss its impact?
Sure. Well, right now what I'm doing is on Tuesday and Thursday nights, as a part of a collaboration between myself and also one of my line brothers who runs an organization called Delaware Ducks, and he has a grant to help support young men to stay away from negative substances and things of the nature. We do athletic training, right? Athletic training for guys grades 7 and 8 in Newark area for football. But we just do the athletic training. But at the end, we also pour into them by giving them a topic of the day to make sure they're emotionally well as well. So conflict resolution, you know, dealing with things in the street, you know, staying away from drugs. And we just talk about some life experiences and then leave them with some more information as well. So it's not just about, you know, the athletic piece. We're also pouring into them. And so when my line brother says, well, you're doing this work here, partner with me, and we can put this package together. And so we're doing that. We got about maybe 15 to maybe 20 kids to show up right now on Tuesday and Thursday night, like tonight and also on Thursday night. So when I get out of here, I'm gonna go do that. Help fellas out. Also, you know, the workshops. Most recently, I did a workshop it was basically international because there was folks on that call from Africa. So what's called the utilization of circles to enhance a culturally competent school setting. So circles, as you know, like in circles and restorative practices, for those who do not know, coming together, you know, having conversations, talking about, you know, different topics you would not do in a circle. But the way I utilize circles is, in years ago, I was the principal. Shout out to, you know, Brother John Skeeve, may rest in peace, one of my chapter brothers who founded the Harambe Charter School. Science Technology in Philadelphia, and I was principal there for a period of time. And every single day, we had close to 600 students all together in one room. Nobody fighting, pushing anything.
Yeah.
In a concentric circle. So from kindergarten all the way out to 8th grade, all around me. And I would share with them, information for the day, speaking about the Nguzo Zaba, the principles of the Kwanzaa, so on and so forth, and let them share about different things that were going on, and play music, and we would have dancing and entertainment, but also pouring information, because as African people in African diaspora, it was forbidden when we came to this country to congregate. Right? We couldn't do that. You might get killed. You might get lynched for doing such. So I use the circles to promote good information, promote good energy. Sometimes many circles are used in the schools when the kid has done something wrong, let's get together, talk about it, so on and so forth. But no, we need to use proactive circles and come up with emotional topics. There are plenty of tools out there you can use to give you prompts, to bring up topics, to talk with the children and whatnot. But I trained a group of about close to a couple hundred educators and community members from around the world a month or so ago, and it went over very, very well. And some other folks are reaching out to me right now on that initiative right now. So that's the kind of work that it's not even about like the money. I just love sharing information to make our place a better place.
That's outstanding. I mean, just the work that you're doing is awesome. I know I definitely want to get a chance, if I can, get out there and check out what you do with the kids out there. I think that's
Absolutely.
awesome. I know we're getting towards the end of our segment here. I do want you to kind of tell us about your podcast, if you can, your Facebook, YouTube, if you can provide that to the audience today.
Sure. So every Monday, and I could do it every week, but I do it just one Monday a month at the beginning of the month, and it's called Manhood Mondays. Over the past couple of years, it was Education for Liberation on Fridays. I started out with that. And then I talked about Education for Liberation Wednesdays. But this year is Manhood Mondays, because as I look at us as our young brothers, we definitely need to do a lot for them, man. The gun violence one, which was the first one I think I did for this particular season. Shout out to the brothers that was on the call that night. And that went over very, very well. I've been getting a lot of good feedback on that one there, because gun violence is something this plaguing. It's a plague.
Right.
It's in our community. Did one on the gun violence. Did one talking about what we're doing right now with the athletic training and so on and so forth. And so things of that nature. Every Monday I come out and I do it YouTube Live and also Facebook Live. So an organization which is Peace, please educate all children equally. You can just use the @ symbol, and you can find that via YouTube. You can also find it on my Peace page via Facebook. And just check us out, and get something from it, and then share it on to all the people around the world, because it's very, very powerful. So the next one will be the first Monday in March, which will probably be Monday, March the 6th. And right now, because I kind of use it based on themes, and so March is Women's History Month, so it'll be something about the sisters. I haven't brought sisters on there yet, so I plan to bring some sisters on there for this season in March. We'll talk about some accomplishments they have in March.
That's phenomenal. That's fantastic. Brother Warren, I want to thank you, man. I want to thank you for just your time, just giving, everything that you do. I mean, just the time that you give to our young people out here, because I mean, we do need to have, more people like yourself, and just doing these things to interact with our young folks. And so I just want to say thank you, first of all, for what you continuously do. I mean, I'm just proud to hear, everything that you're doing and the impact that you're making, because I know it is going to, even if it reaches just one student, one young person, it can make a difference in their life, and so I know that for sure. Yeah. And so thank you, brother. I appreciate it. And so we're gonna transition, but before we close out this podcast this evening, we're going to do something called a Black History Spotlight. February, as we know, is Black History Month. However, we, celebrate the achievements of African Americans each and every day of the year. Tonight's spotlight is on Brother James Enos Clyburn. So Brother Clyburn was born in Sumter, South Carolina on July 21st, 1940, to parents Enos and Almeda Clyburn. Brother Clyburn later graduated with a B.A. in history from South Carolina State University. He became a member of Governor John C. West's staff in 1971 and became a member of, became the first African-American to be an advisor to a governor of South Carolina. And in 1974, Brother Clyburn was appointed commissioner of South Carolina's Human Affairs Office by Governor West. Brother Clyburn held his position until he stepped down in order to pursue a seat in Congress in 1992. And currently, as we know, Brother Clyburn is a very important and influential politician in his home state, as well as a key member of the United States House of Representatives for the 6th Congressional District of South Carolina. So Brother Clyburn played a major role, changing the tide that led to President Joe Biden being named the 46th president of the United States of America.
Absolutely.
So we want to definitely just give him his flowers as well on this Black History Spotlight. So with that, brother, I want to thank you. I'm just going to give closing remarks. We want to just thank the audience for joining this podcast segment of Q's on the Move. Stay tuned for the next Q's on the Move podcast segment, same time, same station. I would like to share with you this evening these final words. We encourage you to take good care of yourselves. And until next time, be the change that you wish to see in the world. Be well and stay safe. Have a great evening. Rubra.
Peace.
Peace. Appreciate you.